What is going on, kid family? Welcome back to the channel. So on today's video, I'm kind of excited because we are going to be spray painting this bumper here, and we are using the Harbor Freight spray gun with the Harbor Freight filter, and we are using the Rustoleum paint right here, the beautiful sunburst yellow. And what's interesting is in this video I'm going to answer some questions that need to be answered on the web. Does the mixing ratio of Rustoleum have an effect on the paint's finish? Does it affect the gloss? Does it affect the orange peel lay down on the paint afterwards? Does it affect how well this Rustoleum paint sprays out this gun with this 1.4mm tip? So if you guys are interested in finding out whether the mixing ratio does affect the paint outcome, don't forget to stay tuned for the entire video. Alright, since we are limited on time, I'm only going to be painting this surface right over here, which is a nice flat surface. And as you guys can see, the bumper has a lot of damage right over here. We're not going to get into that for this video, for this topic, but I'm going to clean this surface up with some soapy water first. Then we have a scuff pad we are going to use, and then finally we are going to mix sand it down with 500 grit sandpaper. We are going to be painting in the garage once again. The main thing is the vehicle and the overspray. So I'm going to take my car right here and I'm going to go all the way there and park it over there. Alright guys, now that we cleared the area, we're going to clean the garage. We're going to let these dogs out so they can relax and calm down. And then we're gonna get to spraying. Alright guys, we got the floor cleaned up, we got it wet. I put some cardboard under the spray area so we don't get the concrete nice and yellow like last time. So the 500 sanding grit sandpaper really smoothed everything out. There was a bunch of small fine scratches here which are eliminated right now. Right now the main thing is to tape off everything else that we are not gonna paint. Thank you Road and Track for donating some paper. Alright guys, so the last video I sprayed a bumper. I had a lot of orange peel and a lot of comments were saying that I need to dilute my ratio a little bit more, and if anything increase my pressure as well in the gun so it atomizes correctly. Now atomization is when the air and the fluid mix together in this little storm area when you depress the trigger, and depending on how well the fluid comes out, that's how well it will stick on the panel and how well it will lay down. So when you purchase the Harbor Freight gun, you are going to have this manual in here as well, and the manual is pretty cool because it has some tips when shooting and what you want to do to better your gun spray pattern. So if it's too thick, it'll tell you what to do. If it's shooting all crazy, it'll tell you what to do. But one thing that's interesting right over here, page 9, it is saying that this spray gun is meant for spraying oil-based paint, which is crazy because everyone online is saying that you shouldn't spray oil-based paint because it is too thick for this gun. But regardless, it says proper paint mixture is essential, and yes it is, to atomize correctly once again, which is right here. You want it to spray properly. If your paint is too thick, it will spray blotchy just like this. If it is too fine and not enough paint coming out, it's going to be too thin. So we want to achieve this proper spray pattern, spray ratio right over here in order to get a nice finish with as little orange peel as possible. Also, when you guys are spraying, make sure you are holding the gun perfectly adjacent to the panel you are spraying. Don't use your wrist and go side to side in sweeping motions. This is actually what I did when I was laying my primer down, and I cut that right away. So you want to keep a stiff wrist and just move with the body panel. There is a nice troubleshooting chart as well over here. So if you are having trouble spraying or you're encountering any problems, definitely check this out. Check this little booklet out. Comes with the gun. Definitely something to read through before you start spraying. And again, if you are having a difficult time, it is okay. You guys are learning, I'm learning, we all learn as we go. Every paint job's gonna get a little bit better and a little bit faster. So this is the gun I am using from Harbor Freight. Obviously I changed the top because the cup that I bought the gun with did not have a lid, so I bought these from Harbor Freight. I do have a pressure gauge and I do have 2 filters. This is the original filter I bought off of eBay, and it cracked the first time I was using it. So I went to Harbor Freight and I picked up these cheap filters, which I was very hesitant about, but so far the last time I painted, it came out great. So not too bad. Just make sure you don't over tighten these. Now again, my gun right over here is not reading properly. As you can see, with the gun disconnected, it is reading about 11 pounds. So I'm gonna have to factor in that, and according to the gun, we'll probably be spraying 40 pounds. All right guys, so the first thing I'm gonna be doing is adding some odorless mineral spirits into the gun. We are gonna just clean the gun out by spraying that fluid out. I'm gonna adjust a little bit of my fan pattern right over here. I'm gonna adjust a little bit of how much fluid comes out of the gun with this, and we're gonna get the gauge pressure reading somewhat properly. Last time I used acetone for this paint job, and after doing some more research, we are not going to be using acetone anymore. Odorless mineral spirits is what you want to use. There is also mineral spirits, but definitely get the odorless. There is less oil residue left behind with this one. So the adjustment knob on the pressure regulator was always leaking, and so I decided to take this out. So we are going to be using some of this plumber's tape to put it on the threads so it seals nice and tight. Gun hooked up. We are shooting about 42 pounds on the gun, which again with the correction equates to about 32 pounds. You see, that's running already, so that's going to be very, very tricky. I'm definitely going to turn down that fluid knob right now. And that pattern is pretty good, but it is a little too thick, so I'm going to turn down my fan pattern just a little bit. But this is not good with paint. If it runs like that, although paint is going to be a little thicker than this, so it shouldn't be a problem. Turn down that fluid tip again, and you want to shoot about 6 to 9 inches from the surface area. That looks pretty good. So let's throw in the paint, let's mix it up, and let's see if the consistency is good as shooting just with the mineral spirits. So make sure you guys shake this up pretty good. I've been shaking it for the last 5 minutes, and then once we get it open, we're gonna stir it up for another 5 minutes. We wanna make sure we mix everything inside really well. And I could feel at the bottom of the paint can there's a lot of contamination and sediment sitting on the bottom, so definitely don't skip this step. Because we are only painting a small surface, I've decided we are gonna go about 2 ounces of paint and 2 ounces of mineral spirits. That's gonna give us a 50-50 dilution ratio. This is gonna be the ratio that everyone talks about, spraying 50-50. And I'm not gonna be using any of these ratios on these cups. I'm just simply using the fluid ounces on the cup and judging and going based off of that. and not spill all over the can, we are just using some masking tape here, and we're gonna create a pour point for the paint. All right, perfect. 2 ounces of mineral spirits goes in first. Let me just pour in whatever paint is here. Alright guys, as you can see, I got a 50-50 ratio there. You can tell clearly by the color of the paint and the color of the mineral spirits sitting there. I'm going to mix that really well and we'll pour it in the gun. So I'll tell you right now, mixing this compared to the old mixing ratio I had, this is a lot thinner, very much like water consistency. So what is the viscosity of the paint? One way to check is to have a viscosity cup, but a cheap alternative is after mixing, just raise the stick and count how long it takes, how many seconds it takes for the paint to drip off the stick. So let's try that again. We're mixing. 1, 2, 3. So if you guys are mixing any kind of paint, that is one way to find out the viscosity of the paint. So again, this is a 50-50 ratio with Rustoleum and mineral spirits. Let's see how it lays down. Let's pour this through the paint strainer into our paint gun and go from there. Right, like I always mention, make sure you put the cap on real nice and tight so it doesn't leak and pour out when you're painting. And just mixing this in the paint cup, you guys can see how water-like it is. So 50-50 ratio, guys. It's time to use a wax and grease remover, which we have already put in a smaller container, and we are going to use shop towels to clean the surface off. You definitely want to use a wax and grease remover, a dedicated one that is, and make sure you use the shop towels because these won't leave any residue behind on the painted surface. Once we clean the whole area off, we are going to use a tack cloth to tack down the surface. This is going to remove any dust and extra contamination that is laying on the painted surface. This item has a little adhesive properties to it, so it lifts and absorbs and reduces static on the paint job. Now, as you guys know from the last video, I did put a little plastic tarp on here. I do have the floor wet, and these things should help eliminate some of the dust contamination on the painted surface so we get a better finish. If we were just to clear coat the bumper right now, a lot of those scratches would have been removed and would look really nice. But our goal is here to spray the Rustoleum paint with 2 different viscosities, 2 different mixing ratios, and to see how it will affect the final outcome. Guys, at this point, it is time to put on the suit. All right, so now we are ready to paint.
Alright guys, so it is about 80 degrees, 40% humidity today, and that's why we are painting the bumpers. Now the first coat that I just laid down, it came out quick compared to the last time where I was spraying and my dilution was a lot thicker with Rustoleum. It was a lot more consistent. I felt more comfortable spraying the thicker coats because I felt like I was in more control. But right now this thing just came out. Even as the first coat, which was supposed to be tacky kind of coat, it applied fairly thick and even, but it is a watery and a thin consistency. So we'll give it about, I don't know, 20 to 30 minutes to dry. We'll see how fast it dries, and then we'll do 2 more coats. I don't want to do 5 coats like last time as well. I just want to do another wet coat, the second coat, and same thing with the third coat. But the first coat, man, I tell you, there is so much debris already in the paint. There's so much dust, and I just tack clothed it, I just cleaned it, and it's kind of sad that the first coat is already looking so bad. So far I think it looks okay, but let's see what my fans have to say. Alright guys, let's talk about the second coat right now. The second coat, I thought I was gonna slow down and lay it down quicker, but I don't know, I guess I'm just used to going fairly quick. So the third coat, we definitely have to slow down the spraying process and get it nice and thick. So after the first coat, I still noticed all the 500 sanding marks were still visible. It did dry after 20 minutes. We laid down the second coat after 20 minutes, which is good. It definitely dries out faster than what I was spraying before. And hopefully the second coat covers all those sanding marks, because if not, then we kind of screwed up. We should have did a 600 or 800 grit, but we'll see. It's all an experiment. We'll see how the coverage will look like. Let's give it another 20-30 minutes and get the third coat done. All right, the second coat looks fairly dry. You guys can do the touch test where it's still tacky, but nothing is transferring over. So let's go ahead and do that third coat. Clearly, I don't know if you guys can see, there are sanding marks still in here. So let's lay down that third coat real thick. Where's my mask? I want to know. Go. Let's do it. Alright. I think that's a wrap, boys. I think that's a wrap. That came... Woo! Yo, that came out nice, thick. Very, very nice. I still got some paint left, actually, so I might do a fourth coat. I know a lot of people say don't do more than 3 coats, but I might still squeeze a fourth coat in because my first coat wasn't that light, and it seems like some areas, like right there, did not cover well. And look at this. I think there's a bubble right there in the paint. And look, and then there's some hair right there. But overall, this coat laid down pretty nice and thick. Hopefully it won't give us too much orange peel. So I think it came out pretty good. Let's ask our friend. And I know some of you guys might be wondering why I'm not tack clothing between each coat. Well, on a regular 2-stage paint, that is ideally what you want to do. You want to lay down 1 coat, let it fully dry, tack cloth it, spray another coat. But with this being an oil-based paint, it's still very tacky, and putting that tack cloth on it, I think would mess up the paint surface. Unless you want to maybe wait a good hour or so with the 50-50 ratio and tack cloth it. But in my opinion, you're better not tack clothing it in between the coats. I usually use the gun, do the first trigger, and just blow some air on the surface to to dust out the area. Alright guys, it's been about 40 minutes since that third coat. It looks pretty good. There's a lot of contamination of dust. A few areas right over here just didn't get coverage from the get-go. So I do have some fluid left over. I am gonna do a fourth and final coat, and we're gonna call it a day on this video because, you know, as you guys know, painting takes a lot of time. You guys are just seeing the cuts and edits of what I do, but in reality this takes a long time. Sanding, prepping, getting the garage ready. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Don't forget to smash the like button. Don't forget to comment your opinions. And obviously stay tuned, subscribe so you stay in tune with what's going on, what the results will be, whether a 50-50 ratio will be better and give a better result, or the next video we are going to be spraying a different mixture on the other side. So comment down below what your common mixing ratios are for Rustoleum, and maybe we'll spray that mixing ratio on the other side and then we'll compare both of them. That's a wrap, boys.
I ain't here for the money, I ain't here for the fame. Though it might be nice to own a jet plane, I'ma do it all for you.